This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
The villain closed in, grabbing her sword arm. With an angry yowl, Faithful leapt from his cup with his claws unsheathed. The one-eyed hillman screamed and released Alanna, trying to pull the hissing cat away from his face. "Lass, beware!" Coram bellowed, trying to fend off three at once. He yelled in pain as one of them opened a deep gash on his sword arm. He swore and attacked again, dropping his shield and switching his sword to his good left hand. Warned by her companion, Alanna whirled to face a giant hillman, a grinning mountain with red hair and long braided mustaches. He guided his shaggy pony with his knees, leaving his hands free to grip the hilt of a sword with an odd crystal blade. Alanna eyed its razor-sharp length and gulped, ducking beneath the red-headed man's first swing. He reversed it, and she blocked it with her shield just in time, yelping at the pain of impact. She struck back with lightning, only to miss as her attacker darted away. She refused to follow and fight on his terms. Instead, she brought her Lioness shield up and waited. The giant returned, circling her carefully. His pony lunged forward, and Moonlight reared, warning it back with her flailing hooves. Alanna caught another blow from the crystal blade on her shield, feeling the shock through her entire body. "I hope my brother put plenty of magic on this shield," she thought grimly. "Otherwise it won't last through its first battle." She turned Moonlight as the giant circled her on his nimble pony. With a kick of her heels, she urged the gold mare forward, slashing at her opponent. She was a knight of Tortal, and not to be toyed with. She used every chance to break through his guard. He blocked her time after time, grinning infuriatingly. Alanna drew back, breathing hard and fighting to keep her control. Now the giant returned the attack, and she blinked sweat from her eyes. She could not afford to make a mistake now. His tactics were different from those of the mounted knights she had fought before. She didn't know what to expect. Suddenly, the midday sun was directly in her eyes. He had maneuvered her just for this. Only at the last second did she glimpse his sword descending on her. She brought lightning up hard, slamming her blade hilt to hilt with the giant's sword. There was a ring of clashing metal, and the downward sweep of the crystal edge was stopped. Then lightning broke, sheared off near the hilt. Moonlight darted away, taking Alanna out of the hillman's range. Her mistress stared at the hilt she still gripped. Lightning had been her sword ever since she had been considered fit to carry one. How could she fight without it in her hand? Coming out of her daze, Alanna fumbled for her axe. She was trembling with rage. It took all her self-control to keep from losing her temper completely and making a fatal mistake. Axe in hand, she charged the hillman with a yell. She didn't hear the warning cries of the other hillmen, or Coram's gleeful whoop. She heard only the wheezing of the giant's pony and her own choked breath. She swung, swearing as the hillman ducked and pulled out of her range. She was closing with him again when he yelled, seeing something behind her. To her fury, he whirled his pony and fled, calling to the few men he had left. Alanna spurred after him. "Come back, coward!" she cried. The giant turned to laugh and shake his sword at her. His voice was choked off as a black arrow sprouted in his chest. More arrows struck down the hillmen. Only 2 escaped. They rode for all they were worth, pursued by 5 white-robed tribesmen. A Bashir, his white burnous tied with a scarlet cord, rode toward Alanna as she dismounted. She was staring at the body of the hillman who had wielded the crystal sword. The blade lay beside him, gleaming against the sand. It glimmered and suddenly flashed, blinding her for a short moment. Alanna stared. Against the yellow-orange fire that filled her sight was a picture. A dark finger, or was it a pole, pointed at a crystal-blue sky. Before it stood a man wearing tattered gray. His eyes were mad. She could smell wood smoke. Her eyes cleared, and the vision was gone. Reaching under her shirt, Alanna drew forth a token given to her by the great Mother Goddess 3 years before. It had once been a coal in her campfire. Now it was covered in clear stone, its fire still flickering under its surface. Alanna knew that if she held it when magic was present, she could see power as a glowing force in the air. She saw magic now, as orange light flickered around the sword, and she scowled. Recently she had dealt with magic of this particular shade, and the memory was not pleasant. The Bajir who had followed her kicked sand over the sword. "It is evil," he said, his quiet voice slightly raspy. "Let the desert have it." Distracted from the magic, Alanna discovered she was crying. It was as if she had lost a companion, not a weapon. A glint of metal caught her eye, and she stopped to pick up Lightning's sheared-off blade. Sliding the length of metal into its sheath, she strapped the now useless hilt in place. Unless she tried to draw the blade, no one would know it was not whole. Mounting her horse, she settled Faithful before her as Coram brought his gelding to her side. "I'm sorry, lass," he told her quietly, putting a hand on her arm. "I know what the sword meant to ye, but ye can't be thinking of that now. These men may be friends or may not be. Who knows why they saved our skins? Ye'd best be putting your mind to talk with them." Alanna nodded, trying to collect her thoughts. Their rescuers formed a loose circle around her and Coram as the man who had covered the crystal sword with sand joined them, guiding a large chestnut stallion with ease. The others gave way to him, letting him approach Alanna and Coram. For a while he said nothing, only stared. Finally he nodded. "I am Halef Saif, headman of the Bloody Hawk tribe, of the people called the Bajir," he said formally. "Those who are dead were trespassers on our sands, riding without leave. You also come here unbidden. Why should we not serve you as we did these others, woman who rides like a man?" Alanna rubbed her head tiredly. She felt too tired and dazed for the dance of manners that passed for conversation among the Bajir. Dealing with these desert warriors was bound to be tricky. Luckily, she had learned their ways from an expert. Faithful climbed onto her shoulder, setting up a murmur among the watching tribesmen. Alanna glared up at the cat, knowing he knew he was making the Bajir nervous. "They don't see black cats with purple eyes often," she thought. "You're getting too big to sit up there," she whispered to her pet. "Never mind that," Faithful told her. His meowing had always made as much sense to Alanna as human speech. "Talk to them now." Suddenly she felt more confident and alert. "I hope you will deal with us fairly, Halef Saif of the Bloody Hawk," she replied. "We took nothing. We harmed nothing, my friend and I. We are simply riding south. Would you harm a warrior of the king?" Her gamble failed as Halef Saif shrugged. "We know no king." Alanna could hear Coram shifting nervously in his saddle. It might have been easier to deal with men who acknowledged King Rold of Tortal. Renegades would not take kindly to the presence of Rold's most unusual young knight. "You know no king, but others of the Bajir do. If they knew you held a knight of the realm and her companion, they might counsel you to take care," Alanna warned. This produced some amusement among the riders. Only their leader remained grim. "Is your king so weak? He uses women for warriors?" "We cannot think well of such a king. We cannot think well of a woman so immodest that she puts on the clothes of a man and rides with her face bare." Alanna pointed to the bodies of the hillmen she and Coram had slain. "They did not think I was a worthy opponent either. Can you say that my friend and I would be dead at the hillmen's swords if you had not come? They took my sword from me." She swallowed hard and said recklessly, "What is a sword? I have my axe and my dagger and my spear. I have Coram Smytheson to watch my back as I watch his." "Big words from a small woman," Halef Saif remarked. There was no way for Alanna to read his expression. One of the riders, a Bajir head and shoulders taller than most of his companions, brought his horse forward, peering at Alanna's face intently. Suddenly he nodded with satisfaction. "She's the one!" he exclaimed. "Halef, she's the burning brightly one!" "Speak on, Gamal," Halef ordered. The huge warrior was bowing as low to Alanna as his saddle would permit. "Would you remember me?" he asked hopefully. "I was at the smallest west gate in the stone village that northerners call Persepolis. It was 6 rainy seasons ago. Your master, the blue-eyed one, bought my silence with a gold coin. Remembering, Alanna grinned.